So the Meta Quest 3 has been confirmed to launch on the 10th of October, with there being a 128GB version and a 512GB version. But people have been asking me, which version should I get? Well, by the end of this video, you should have an answer to that question. Let's not mess around, let's go. So first, it's important to note that even though the size of the storage on the Meta Quest 3 is 128GB and 512GB, you don't get all of that space to use yourself because the Quest system files take up a certain amount in order to work. How much does it take up? Well, the Quest 2 system took up approximately 12GB of space, and the Quest 3 has more features, so let's use a conservative estimate and say the system is going to take up to 15GB of space. That means that the usable space in a 128GB version will be 113GB, and the 512 will have 497GB. So how much of that storage will you actually use? Well, we first need to find out how big our favorite games are, and as the Meta Quest 3 is more powerful, it's obvious that games are going to be bigger and better, leading to inevitably bigger file sizes. So the biggest game in relation to size at the moment on the Quest 2 is Medal of Honor, taking up a huge 42GB of space. That means you could only fit 2.5 copies of the game onto the 128GB version and almost 12 copies of the game onto the 512GB. But this isn't a fair comparison, as that size isn't representative of 99% of Quest games. Let's look at some other large graphically intense games. For example, Contractors is 11GB, Resi 4 is 8.8GB, and even The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 is only 12.6GB, and that was released under a year ago. We can even look at Asgard's Wrath 2, which is advertised as having a size of 25.5GB, meaning you could fit 4.5 Asgard Wraths 2 on 128GB and 20 copies of it onto the 512 version. Now, obviously, we don't know how big Assassin's Creed Nexus is going to be, but I can guarantee it's not going to be more than Asgard's Wrath 2. But if we actually look at most of the games, they are between 0.5 and 4GB, and these aren't likely to increase much, if at all, because they are games that are focused less on graphics and more on gameplay. But let's just put all this into perspective. So if you were to fill up both versions of the Quest with games of around 4GB, you could fit 32 games onto the 128GB and 125 games onto the 512. Either way you stretch it, that's a lot of games. And to help you get a better understanding, I'm going to show you some popular games along with their respective sizes, so you can see how little space they would actually take up on the headset. But what about if I watch movies on the Quest? Well, at 1080p, movies are between 1 and 3GB, and if you're going to watch a 3D film, they can range between 10 and 25GB, so it's likely you could run out of space quickly if you were watching loads and not removing them from your device. And on top of that, there are certainly apps out there where you could enjoy multiple forms of media without the need to actually download them onto your device. So what is the verdict? Well, I would say at this moment in time, the 128GB is more than enough for most people, given how small the sizes of the games are. I would even recommend, if you are a Quest 2 user currently, see how much space you are currently using and judge accordingly. Now, is there any reason to buy a 512GB version? Well, yeah, I would say if you intend on downloading all the highest end games simultaneously, like Medal of Honor, Asgard's Wrath 2, Saints and Sinners, and Assassin's Creed Nexus, and you want to watch movies from the device itself while not having to worry about removing apps in the future, then it might be a good idea to go for the 512GB version. Hell, even if you're like me and you're a YouTuber, or you're someone who records a lot of gameplay footage, or you get access to a lot of games, that could also be a good reason to upgrade to the 512GB version. But when you consider the fact it's an extra $150 to upgrade to the 512GB, it might be a better option to keep those extra dollars for some Quest accessories. So anyway guys, that's it for now. Has this been helpful? Are you going to buy the 128GB or the 512GB? Let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!